Hello everybody and welcome back to artofdino.com and saveearth.us. And I was searching the CIA and I found this from the reading room, which had unidentified flying objects, UFOs in ancient China. And so I looked it up. I couldn't find exactly what this book was that this guy had. I couldn't find it, but the topic got me interested. And so I found some really cool article from China, I believe, and it's got a whole collection of these with some interesting pictures that are kind of whatever. They're low quality pictures and stuff, but they've got some really cool information and just kind of little tidbits on the UFOs from ancient China. And again, nowadays we know that the government could be behind it, blah blah blah. There could be all these different things behind it. It could be from beyond the poles, or it could be just our own people playing tricks on us. So this is a hot topic, and I wanted to go over some history with it. So take a listen to this. I'm going to read what this article says right here. This is the translated version. The regular site is in Chinese, and so I translated each part. And let's just go over it and see what we can discover here. You ready? So this first one says, in modern times, we've noticed that UFO incidents occur frequently. So do UFOs also appear in ancient time? 139 BC, an event, a giant glowing object suspected in Chang'an. So that's very interesting. That's where it starts. China, the book, contains 365 records of solar eclipses. Ziqi Chongqian is a chronological historical masterpiece and occupies an important position in Chinese history. 365 records of solar eclipses, 63 comets, and 26 records of meteors and meteorites, and dozens of records of natural disasters, earthquakes, floods, and droughts. 17 records of astronomical phenomena that cannot be explained by the laws of changes in the sun, moon, and stars. It means that thing appears at the sun that cannot be the sun. The same incident is also mentioned in the Book of Han, Chronicle of Emperor Wu. There's a record on April Wu Shen. There were sunrises both day and night. This is a historical book with great value, and therefore this event should be appreciated. During the Ming Dynasty, Yang Shen also annotated this event, Diangxian Zhonglu, indicating that what appeared at night could not be the sun, but something else. So then here we go. In January 314, 3 unidentified objects appeared in the sky. It says inside, in the summer of April, in the second year of Zhangqin reign of Emperor Wu of the Western Han Dynasty, a star as big as the sun appeared at night. That is, a luminous object as bright as the sun appears in the sky at night. Interesting. The Ziqi Chongqian also recorded an incident during the Western Jin Dynasty in which 3 UFOs appeared in the sky at the same time. The book writes, in the second year of Jiangxing 314 AD during the reign of Emperor Min in the Western Jin Dynasty, on the second day of the first month, 3 suns appeared one after another, coming out from the west and heading east. That is to say, wow, the same incident also recorded in the complete works in ancient and modern books. The second year of Jiangxing in the reign of Emperor Min, the Western Jin Dynasty. These 3 objects are most likely spherical UFOs. However, people at that time did not have the concept of UFOs, so they could only use the closest form of these 3 objects. There are also records in the ancient and modern book collections. That is to say, sun is used to describe this object. March of the lunar calendar in 809, an unidentified object appeared in Chang'an. And ancient and modern books record that, in this intercalary 3rd month of the 4th year of the Yunhe reign of Emperor Jingzhong of Tang Dynasty, there was an object like the sun next to the sun. That is to say, an object appeared next to the sun. If this object appears next to the sun during the day and can be observed by people, this means that the light emitted by this object is very strong, enough to be observed, which is pretty impressive and odd. Sometime between 665 and 886, quite a long time, an event called the Yan Zun Xiancha incident occurred, which is pretty, let's see what that is all about, where it is the myth that can travel on the sea. Xiancha in ancient times meant a bamboo raft that could travel between the sea and the Milky Way in mythology. It is a kind of flying device used by gods, but due to the limitations of ancient people's thinking, they can only name such objects after objects they are familiar with, which is also very intense. And that's a thing that the mind is powerful in that sense. If it doesn't know something exists, it can't really comprehend it. How many times has that happened? And could be happening now. Only items that are familiar with this looks like a vimana. If we look at it from the perspective of modern people, this fairy raft is actually very similar to what we call a flying saucer today, or a vimana, which happened around the same time. The Indians were doing all kinds of stuff, so very close. Then it becomes the fairies' flying machine, because the ancients could not explain this phenomenon. Then it became the flying vehicle of the immortals, that is, the immortal raft, which is also very cool. They're just envisioning what they saw these things, because no one knows. Again, there could be people from beyond the poles. Zun Xiancha means Yangzhou's mount. Yan Zun Xiancha, totally botched, means Yan Zun's mountain. This Yan Zun is also a godlike figure. He is a man from the Han Dynasty who lived in the Pingle Mountain in Pai County after his retirement, where he accepted disciples to teach Laozi and Zhongji. Wang Mang, usurpation of power, and Guangwu's restoration. If I have the chance in the future, I will make a video. Yan Zun Xiancha was named because Yan Zun once accurately stated the fact that a young man from the Han Dynasty rode in a flying vehicle. Wonder what that is all about. So there are reports of different people. And again, India. I wonder if these things came from India, or if India, they were flying overhead, because there could be one area incredibly advanced and another one right next to it amazingly poor. We know that in the way, just in the microcosm of cities and towns and states nowadays. And imagine what it was like back then, when, especially if this land is far bigger than we are told. So therefore, this type of flying boat was uniformly called Yan Zun Xiancha. This time, the means of transportation appeared in Chang'an, the capital of the Tang dynasty. So there's different books that connect all these different thoughts and theories. The fact that a young man from the Han Dynasty rode a flying machine, because it was a fairy object, it was placed in the Lind Hall by the imperial court. This ferry boat is more than 50 feet long, about 15 meters. It makes a metallic sound when you knock it. It is very hard and will not rust. Could be from a metal from beyond the poles. Who knows? Because it's a fairy, I don't know if that's this. A minister named Lai Deyu cut off a thin branch about 1 foot long from the spacecraft. Looking at it today, this twig is most likely a component of this spacecraft. So I'm not sure if they've saved it somewhere or what. God knows what they do. And again, these are the ones that we hear. Imagine what we have not heard. Makes a metallic sound when you knock on it. He asked someone to carve this part into a statue of a Taoist priest. I didn't expect that this statue could fly around itself. So again, this is just a direct translation of this person's article, so take what you can from this until I find a better book. After a few years, the aircraft suddenly flew away on its own. From today's perspective, Yan Zun Xiancha is most likely something like a small space shuttle. What could that have possibly been? I had no idea. And then it was on a tech that could do it on its own, something from the future again, but not, they say from the future, but it could be something from another place that's just more advanced. After completing the inspection, however, no aliens came down from the spacecraft at that time. It was most likely an unmanned UFO that flew away after completing the investigation. The date, November 3rd, 1070, the event called the Zhangqin Torch at the Jinshan Temple in Zhengjiang, Jiangsu. Su Shi was a famous writer, politician, artist, and medical scientist in the northern Song dynasty. He wrote more than 2,700 poems in his lifetime. Among so many poems, there is almost no subject that cannot be included in poems. He surpassed his contemporaries and became the most popular poet of the Song dynasty among later readers. There is a poem about visiting Jinshan Temple. There is one called Visiting Jinshan Temple, which has been interpreted by many later generations and is considered his most peculiar poem. The strange thing is that it seems that Su Shi encountered aliens by chance. In 1070, the 4th year of the Zixi reign of Emperor Zhenzong of Song Dynasty, Su Shi received an order to be transferred from the then capital to Huangzhou. On the way, we passed Zhenjiang and visited the famous Jimsham ancient temple in the south of the Yangtze River. At that time, the abbot of the Jinshan temple received Su Shi, and Su Shi also stayed overnight in the ancient temple. He wrote visiting the temple, which recorded at that time, and he said, at the second watch, the moon sets and the sky becomes dark. In the middle of the river seems to be a bright torch. The flying flames illuminate the mountain and startle the birds. I return home feeling disappointed and unable to recognize anything in my heart. It is neither ghost nor human. So what could it be? And at the bottom it says, this means that at the second watch, the new moon disappeared, and the sky, the river, and Jinshan were all pitch black. Nuts. Transferred from Kyoto to Hangzhou, just when Sushi was tired and was about to go back to rest, suddenly a strange scene appeared on the surface of the Yangtze River. A ball of flame suddenly emerged from the quiet center of the Yangtze River, like a red torch burning fiercely, and it was extremely dazzling under the night sky. It illuminated Jinshan and startled the crows roosting in their nests. Very into the birds and the animals are always a telltale sign of something interesting. They sense it before their intuition is on point. At that time, the abbot of Jinshan Ancient Temple received Sushi. This scene surprised Sushi so much that he still couldn't calm down even when he returned to his bedroom. This ball of fire was not created by a ghost or a human. Sushi was puzzled as to what it was. You never know. It could be some random person beyond the poles or some random person in this time period that he didn't even know about. Maybe one of the pagodas was shooting stuff off. By the second watch, the new moon had disappeared. When he woke up the next day, Sushi thought that the strange phenomenon last night was caused by the river god, because he himself didn't know what it was. He wrote this scene into a poem. So the new moon, by the second watch, the new moon disappeared, which is interesting because the new moon, I can never see it. So I wonder if they were able to see the new moon back then. Maybe it did something or created some kind of energy or light or glow. Who knows? I don't really know. But like a red torch burning, from today's perspective, the burning torch that Sushi observed can emit light and dive. It should be a UFO that appeared from the bottom of the water. So they're not sure what that was. Something came from the water, it came from the sky, but then the next one says someday in the 1090s, 1090, and the Yangtze Pearl is what the event is called, the location, the Yangzhou. Shen Kuo, a scientist in the northern Song dynasty, also recorded a UFO in his Mengxi Bitan. In Mengxi's written talk, Shen Kuo is a scientist in Chinese history who has made achievements in astronomy, geology, physics, medicine, and other fields. The book, called Dream Pool Essays, took him 8 years to complete. He was rigorous in his studies. Therefore, the records in this book are highly credible. I would love to see that book. And we'll get a little glimpse of it here, but Dream Pool Essays. What could this guy have written about geology, physics, medicine back then? I'd love to read it. Mengxi written talk. It is recorded in the book. It says, quote, in Jiayao, there is a pearl in Yangzhou. It is very big and often seen in dark skies. It first appeared in the ponds and swamps of Tiancheng County, then turned into the Yangtze Lake, and then into the Xingke Lake. So again, was this ancient tech from some other world, some kind of glowing thing, orb, a means of travel by someone? You never know. That is to say, during the Jiayao period, a very large pearl appeared in Yangzhou. It can often be seen at night at first. It flowed in and out of the ponds and swamps in Tianjin County, and later turned into Zhengxi Lake. So is it a giant water ball, or were there ways to have water, turn into different shapes? Again, is it someone, maybe the scouts, maybe this people that were coming in here scouting this area to control it were sending, to control it in the future, like right now, they were sending out little pods or something to check stuff out, check out the water, sample things. Who knows? Maybe drones back then were a lot different. Often seen at night, later it appeared in Xingke Lake, where local residents and passersby could often see it. The pearl recorded in the book should be a spherical UFO we observe today. Many people saw this unidentified object at that time. So again, wow. A Vimana maybe? Maybe they looked like circles when they were spinning, or if you saw them from below. But what is even more incredible is that a friend of Shen Kuo witnessed this unidentified object at close range and saw the interior of this star UFO. It is also recorded in the book. So this book, wow, we need to start translating all these ancient things, and it's really a shame that the Cultural Revolution occurred and decimated so many truths of the ancient China and Tartary. Really a shame all the libraries. If all these libraries were always preserved and that was like a kind of a universal thing around our realm, then it would be amazing today. We'd know so much more. Light comes out of the kiss, it says. My friend's study is on the lake. One night he suddenly saw the pearl very close. At first the pearl opened slightly and light came out from the middle of it like a horizontal golden thread. That is to say, Shen Kuo had a friend named Sun Ju whose study was by the Pease Lake, where he read every day. The study has a wide view and you can see the entire lake. One night, Sunju was reading until late at night. He walked to the window and looked at the lake. He saw that the lake was dark and there was no moon. Suddenly, a golden light flashed in the lake, very close to him. Wait for him to look carefully again. It says, then the book says, suddenly the shell opened and it was as big as half a mat. Not sure what that is. Inside the shell was a white light like silver, and the pearl was as big as a fist. It's not really that big. So bright that it was impossible to look directly at it. All the trees within a radius of more than 10 miles were cast shadows, as if illuminated by the rising sun. That is to say, Sun Ju was startled at first, but when he looked more carefully, I saw that the light of this unidentified object was illuminating a larger and larger area, and the light was becoming stronger and stronger. It looked like a giant clam that was slowly opening its slightly open shell. When the unidentified object was fully opened, it was as big as half a mat. At this time, a fist-sized bead appeared from the opening. This bead gave off a bright white light that was too dazzling to be looked at directly. Mottled shadows of trees could be seen within a radius of more than 10 miles around, as if they were illuminated by the sun. The sky in the distance was as bright as red clouds. So that's just kind of another saying of that, but with a little more detail. Very small light containing that much power. That must be something amazing and incredibly advanced, and I don't put it past people beyond the realm. Finally, the book says, it suddenly goes away as fast as flying. It floats in the waves as bright as the sun. After a while, the UFO flew away and appeared above the waves. From a distance, it looked like a dazzling sun. Wow. And then it keeps going. There's another one. It says, time about 1170, event, the moonlight on a dark day and the difference between the stars and the moon. Location, Nanjing. In the 19th chapter of Volume A of the book Yi Jiangxi, written by Hong Mei of the Southern Song Dynasty, the chapter on the dark day and moonlight, it is recorded that Xiao Xingshan, eldest daughter, married Shi at night. She found the courtyard as bright as day and was amazed at the strong moonlight, but then the light gradually dimmed, and when I looked up, I couldn't tell where the source was, but I was sure it wasn't moonlight. We know that there were no such bright light sources at that time, so there was only starlight and moonlight in the yard at night. At night, I found that the courtyard was as bright as day, but she suddenly found that the courtyard was as bright as day. At first, I thought it was moonlight and marveled at how strong it was. Then the light gradually dimmed, and she looked up, but couldn't find any glowing object. And it is also confirmed that the bright light just now was not moonlight. It is very likely that the UFO emitted the bright light and flew away. This is again written in ancient text. And what could it be? Shooting stars that do something different? Observation tech? I say the same things, but there's got to be some answer to this because it's not just a UFO from another planet. It has to have a purpose. But she suddenly discovered in the courtyard. There is another record about UFOs in Volume 8 of Yi Jiangxi, the strange chapter of stars and moons, this time written by the author himself. One night, I saw a spherical UFO in the sky with my own eyes. It is very likely that the UFO emitted a strong light and flew away. I'm reading the pages from the picture at first, the text from the picture as well. It started out as a single object, half the size of the moon, and then it split into many smaller spherical UFOs, drones. Then these UFOs, small UFOs, merged into one, drones. And again, what if, again, the controlling place beyond the realm had that drone tech that they introduced to us somewhat recently? If that could be going for a very long time, that could always have been somewhere. Date, May 8th, 1880, foreign object transport. Location, Songzi, Hubei. The Songzi County Chronicles records the story of a farmer being taken away by a UFO. June 15th, 1880, in Xishangchu, Songzi County, Hubei Province, there was a farmer named Quinn. I went for a walk in the woods behind my house in the morning and suddenly saw a strange object in the woods. It is emitting bright, colorful light. He immediately went forward to grab it, but suddenly felt his body floating off the ground and flying into the air, into the clouds. There was also a constant rustling sound of wind beside him. At this moment, he felt his mind was a little fuzzy and his body could not move freely. Was he being abducted, or did he take some nice magic mushrooms, or some kind of hallucinogen, or a fever even? But this also sounds like it could have been something else. He could have been taken up by a Vamana or something to do testing on, whether that's real or not, who knows? There's a lot of experiences about that, but again, proof is a whole nother thing. After a while, he suddenly fell from a high altitude and landed on a high mountain without suffering any injuries. The body can't move freely, he said. The farmer named Kin seemed to have just woken up from a dream and was very scared. And again, do they use dreams in that kind of way to blend reality and myth and all these different things? There's no telling. Later, I met a woodcutter. Seeing the farmer named Tan, he felt very strange, so he asked him where he came from out of curiosity. The farmer, surnamed Quinn, answered truthfully that he was from Songzi County in the Hubei province. The woodcutter was very surprised and asked, "How did you get here? This is already in Guizhou province, 500 to 600 kilometers away from your hometown." So the guy traveled, apparently, in this time. Was he abducted? What happened? By who? Again, people, I feel like we've been watched for a long time and still are today, and hopefully they do something at some point. Good. I was curious and asked him where he came from. Later, with the guidance of the woodcutter, he was able to go down the mountain smoothly and beg all the way back home. After 18 days, he finally returned home. This incident seems to be that the farmer named Quinn accidentally boarded a UFO spacecraft. He flew to a place 500 or 600 kilometers away from home. Fortunately, he was not injured and finally returned home. Very interesting. Another event called the Red Flame Soaring Event in 1892 in Nanjing states that we found that there are many records of UFO incidents in ancient Chinese history, but the technology was not so advanced at that time. It's not like now when you can take photos with just a mobile phone. At that time, even if people witnessed a UFO incident, they were unable to record what they saw with their own eyes. However, coincidentally, in the 18th year of the Guangzhou period of the Qing dynasty, that is in 1892, a UFO incident occurred over the Confucius Temple in Nanjing. Wu Yuru, a court painter of the Qing dynasty, happened to witness this scene at the scene. Wu Yuri then painted the scene he had witnessed, and later the now famous painting "Red Flame Rising to the Sky" was created. And I'm not sure if that is it or not, but I'll have to try and find that. It can be said that "Red Flame Rising to the Sky" is the earliest painting about UFOs in China. It has become a precious historical material for UFO research. The picture shows many citizens wearing long gowns and jackets gathering at the Zuke Bridge in Nanjing Confucius Temple. Everyone was looking up at the ball of fire hanging in the sky and talking about it. Very interesting. Did the sun go through some kind of thing, or who knows? This painting not only has pictures but also has detailed text. It records the time, location, number of witnesses, size, color, luminous intensity, flying speed, and various speculations of the strange object that appeared in the sky and flew over Nanjing City. Therefore, it is also hailed as the most outstanding eyewitness report in the history of ancient Chinese UFO observations. The text translation is as follows. Around 8 o'clock that evening, a fireball suddenly appeared in the sky over Nanjing. It flew slowly from west to east and then gradually disappeared. Since the fireball moved slowly, unlike a fleeting meteor, and was flying against the wind, it was not a child's Kongming lantern, so everyone who witnessed it was amazed. When the fireball appeared, there were hundreds of witnesses, and the Suzaku Bridge was crowded with onlookers. Everyone was talking about it. Some people also noticed that there was a slight sound when the fireball first appeared, which came from outside the south gate. But rather than a natural phenomenon, it is more like a man-made aircraft. So, wow. I'll leave that up to you all for some speculation, but that's a collection of things I had never known about. And I've seen different things. There was one time in 2012 when I saw a meteor or something in the sky over Aruba, and it turned green. It was bright, it got brighter, it turned green, and then it broke into pieces. And I swear, I was with about 6 other people, and we all heard a little tiny pop. And when it exploded, it turned green into these things. And I remember looking at my friend, because it was 2012, and being like, should we be worried about this? We're on a tiny island. And that was big. And he was like, whatever, it's 2012. And I was like, okay. And then we continued to party and kind of forget about it. But I remember seeing that and being amazed. But again, I think these people also saw things like that, and they weren't as amazed because they knew about them as meteors. So when these things happened that were out of the ordinary, since they were smart in ways of astrology and all these different things, and they knew about stuff, they had books and researchers, that I think these were things to be considered. And again, the drone footage, I think, again, people from gods, the myths, all these different things. I am a firm believer in beyond the poles, and so I believe there's tech beyond the poles, and I believe they were scouting beyond the poles. They may have been doing a lot of research before they ended up coming here and colonizing this zone, whoever they are. But you never know. I don't believe in the other planet stuff anymore, really. I don't see any proof of anything from other planets. I think those are so different than what we think they are and what we've been told by NASA and other space agencies, that my only chance for intelligent and beautiful godlike divinity, giant, etc., is beyond the poles, where I do think they are in multitude of all different species, of all different characters, with all different tech. They could fly over here so easily and mess around with primitive people at any point in time, and we would have no idea. They could easily come up with technology that would detect it. They could have spacecraft like gyroscopes that floated. They could use light in different ways than we know how. They could have been cameras, orbs, energy, ethereal things. There could have, some of these things could have been ancient tech underground or whatever, firing back into place. Maybe under some of those lakes were ancient villages or something that had ethereal tech, and then at some point they maybe ignited and created a light under the water. Who knows? Anything could be possible, because we've been told and led so far astray that we are just grasping at straws. And imagination, since they've eviscerated so much, is one of the best tools we have to envision what could have been in this massive, amazing realm. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I'll put a link to the website down below. Feel free to take a look at any of the translations, chime in, and have anything more. I apologize for it being a little sloppy, but it's just the way it was written, so and translated, so that's probably where the error occurs. So thank you all very much for checking this out from SaveEarth.us and artofdino.com. Bless you all.